He is a multi-world record-holding world champion skydiver. He's the first world champion of freestyle swooping, canopy piloting ever. The first one in history.
If you asked me what my greatest skydive was of all times, there's two that ring out in my mind immediately.
When you did your stunt, did you feel like, I have to wake up at 1 a.m. and go there? Or were you looking forward to it?
I was looking forward to every second of it.
Like
that waking up means that she went to sleep the night before.
I think I actually intentionally went to bed early, which never happens. I can never get into bed and be settled before 11 o'clock is about the earliest I can. Night I was in bed, I think at 9 p.m. and ready to go to sleep.
Okay. So if I go every day at 8:30, is that too early for you?
You get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I cannot. That my body clock is like 11 p.m. I wake up on my own at 7. So that's my thing.
It depends on what time you're waking up, for sure.
It depends. How many hours do you get every day to be able to feel like you're fresh, you're able to process, be happy, mood?
At least 6 hours, but I like the 7 hour to 8 hour range is what I try to get.
What about you?
I mean, for me, I make sure that I if I know that I'm doing a stunt the next day, or if I know that I'm doing a project or a world record or something like that, I make sure I get proper sleep. I make sure I eat properly. I think of it as an athlete would. It's game day. You got to be ready for game day. Practice or doing stuff on other days, it's different than game day.
It has to, right? Because it's all about, you see, if you treat the body the same way we treat our phones, charging them every time they deplete, then we'll be okay. But people don't do that. And then they blame the, whatever it is that they blame for their health, but it's really about proper nutrition and sleep. That's it. And I feel it. If I sleep properly and eat properly, if I read a book, I consume it like a sponge. I don't know if when it comes to stunts and when it's come to, is the amount of focus for every single tick box that you have to go. You can't just skip something. It's just too dangerous for it to be skipped. Sure. Has any of that happened to you, Junior?
If it's something that's, especially depending upon what kind of stunt it is, if it's something that's going to be possibility of being life-threatening, I'm fully switched on. It has all of my focus. I don't let my focus go anyplace else for that day. If I forgot to pick up the dry cleaning or I'm worried about something else, it goes aside. I compartmentalize, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And all my focus goes to whatever I'm doing.
One thing, because exactly the stakes are.
And it's skydiving, so it can be life or death if we're not careful. But it's not when we're doing what we need to do.
Do you have a story of, okay, you're literally in the eye of it, in the middle of it, but then something somewhere got stuck? Now, I'm not expert, so I don't know the lingo, but something got stuck, like you're trying to pull the thing, and then you have to, something happened?
Oh, absolutely. During the filming of the world's largest flag, the world record that we set for Guinness here in Dubai in 2018. During that project, I had a number of, it wasn't just a one and done. We went out, we flew the flag, and we got the record. I wish it was that easy, but there were a couple times that we needed to implement emergency procedures and go through stuff, and absolutely it's...
But was it life-threatening emergency procedures, or was it just because
it could have been. Okay. It could have been. So on one of the flag attempts, I wasn't able to open the flag bag. So the container that is attached to me, that holds the flag, it was holding roughly 200 kg of weight.
That's a lot of weight.
It's a lot of weight.
So if you don't let go of that, that's just pulling you down as fast as possible.
Exactly. And we build in backup systems, right? Every system that we have is a backup. Just like our parachute systems, we have 2 parachutes. One's always a backup. Same thing with the flag bag design. It had backups built into it. In case something like that would happen, there was a way to get rid of it. There was a way to get it off of me, a way to keep me separated. So when on every single jump that we did, we were opening everything away from people. We were out into the desert away from everything. So in case something happened during my exit, during the deployment of the parachute, during the deployment of the flag, it wasn't going to hurt anybody.
If you drop it, if you just let it go.
Funny, that happened on the first one.
It did happen.
And you actually dropped it.
It wasn't intentional.
It wasn't intentional.
It wasn't intentional. It was part of the design, the rigor that was helping with the project, that was designing the bag and working with me very closely. We did everything that we would normally do, and we just didn't take into account the weight of everything and the stress it would put on the equipment, because the equipment hasn't been used for weight like that. This isn't military equipment that we're using. We're using civilian equipment and modifying it for the purpose of what we were doing. So on the first jump during the project, with the actual flag attached to me, as soon as the parachute deployed, all of it released. So it was a malfunction of the system, and I watched the flag
200 kilos
200 kg going to the ground.
A bomb.
You could hear it whistling, like you know, in the cartoon. Exactly, in the cartoons, you could hear it whistle, like as it traveled, and when it hit, you could hear it hit it.
It's 200 kg.
I could only hear the words that were coming out of my mouth at that point, and none of them were appropriate to say aloud.
Tell me about New York, because it's one of those kind of beautiful cities, like those kind of massive. It's part of everyone's culture, wherever they are.
That's actually a really good question. I've never really thought about how New York has influenced me. It's growing up for me. It's just home. Like, I was born in Queens. I grew up on Long Island. It was busy and fast paced, but at the same time, I grew up at a great time in our history, as far as
80s and 90s.
Yeah, 80s and 90s, where, I mean,
sorry,
growing up,
age.
we were we're the same age. It's okay.
I'll cut that if you want.
You can throw out my age. I'm proud. I tell everybody each one of these gray hairs is an experience.
It's an
He
experience.
blames them on me, actually.
Most of the time. I never saw a single gray hair until I met her. So I mean, I'm not going to judge, but I mean,
well, we'll leave the judging to the next part. But anyway,
I mean, it was a great time to grow up. It was safe. You know, people talk about New York as being this dangerous place, and I mean, any place you live, you know, we had a long conversation about this. Any place that you go has its dangerous areas. It has its brighter areas. I never felt unsafe growing up in New York. We would take the train from Long Island into the city as kids. We early teenagers, and we're running around the city on our own. And this is pre cell phone days. This is pre pagers and everything else. And
exactly.
We just, oh
wow.
Hey,
the millennials were like, "What's a pager?"
Yeah, exactly.
What's a CD? I was having a discussion with my daughter yesterday. I was like, "Yeah, we used to rewind to listen to the same song." It's like, "What do you mean by rewind? Just play it again." I was like, "Just let's listen."
They don't understand, like, the Blockbuster fees. If you don't rewind this, there's a fee for it.
Because he didn't return that rewind.
Exactly.
Honestly.
Yeah.
The slogan used to be, what is it? Be kind and rewind.
Yeah, be kind,
Be kind and rewind.
Yep.
Honestly.
But yeah, I mean, New York was an amazing place to grow up.
But how is it now? Is it the same?
I mean,
in your opinion,
we're looking at is any place in the world the same right now with COVID being what it is?
No.
I mean, everything's kind of changed.
That's true.
I think talking to friends of ours that are still in the city, and family that I have that are still in the city, it's kind of changed a little bit. It doesn't have quite the same feel that it had before, but hopefully, if everything can kind of go back to normal at some point.
What do you? When you remember New York, what's the one thing that comes into your mind apart from home?
The food.
Bagels. Pizza.
Pizza, a proper slice of cheese.
So it's true. Whatever they say on TV, it's true. Food in New York is
the food in New York. I love the food in New York. There's to me, there's nothing better. I don't know.
Yeah, if you even consider yourself even a small foodie, then New York is a love affair.
Okay, I remember we spent our honeymoon in Malaysia,
Oh.
and when we went there, it was like everything was beautiful, and we went to this kind of resort that was on an island, and it was beautiful. But then the food was everything tasted fish,
Oh.
and it was spicy like in a way that no, not that, and it was like oh, and even eat that, but the only thing was the fruits. Like those tropical fruits, and
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
that sustained us as well. So I hear you. Coming back to you, tell me what is his accolades? What's his kind of what is the things that is? You kept on telling me his world records and
Yeah. So in a nutshell, he is a multi-world record holding world champion skydiver. He has 6 world records.
Yeah.
He has the world record for every single flag related world record in skydiving. He is either has that or is a part of that, which is great. That's 3. Is it 3 world
2.
records? 2 world records.
that's massive.
Pretty cool, hey?
That's cool.
And you've been on multiple world record skydives. The 64 way, the 108 way,
69 way.
69
Yeah.
way.
108 way for the free fly world records.
Yeah.
So
And then the
jumping
last
with-
one
with other people.
you participated with was the 164 way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a participant for a couple of jumps, but they filtered me out. They filter people in and out depending upon what goes on.
And then he's the first world champion of freestyle swooping canopy piloting ever. The first one in history. So yeah, he's
That's massive. That's massive. Seriously. So when did you start? How did it start?
I love this story.
Oh man, this goes back. This is like an early childhood kind of beginning. So, in order to tell you the story, I got to tell you a little bit about my background with my family. I come from an amazing family. My dad and my uncle were the same, and I was always pushed to do fun stuff, and that's what kind of got me into always looking for something that was fun as well. I would approach it safely, but I always wanted to try stuff, and that's how skydiving came.
Yeah, it's a perfect fit.
I
in my mind, it's
out of
like
school.
a perfect fit. If you're jumping off cliffs and if you're going to demolition derby, this is child's play to you.
And my dad was in aviation. I was always obsessed with aviation. So literally, as a graduation present, my parents got me a first-time flight for a pilot. So I flew for the first time. I was 17, getting ready to turn 18 when I flew my first airplane. So I started flying before.
One of those, what you call, not a jet airplane, like a small airplane.
Yeah, small Cessna.
Right. Yeah.
152. So 2-seater, instructor, myself, and learning how to fly. And
That's amazing.
one of the things that we did with my instructor was we wanted to see how many different airports, because where I was living in Michigan at the time, I was going to university, and there was a lot of small little airports all over the place. So it was his idea that we would try to see how many airports we could land at and go to in 1 hour. And one of the last airports we landed at, there was a skydiving center. You could see on the paper map that they give you, it's called a sectional for flying, there was a little parachute. He's like, oh, this means that this is a skydiving center. I'm like, skydiving center? They jump out of airplanes here. I was like, oh, cool, let's check it out. So we went in there, and the place was scary looking. It was scary, and I was like, no way, I'm never gonna do this. Fast forward a couple years, I'm in university, and a couple friends are like, hey, we're gonna go skydiving. I'm like, yeah, sure, let's go.
It all came back to you.
And it all came back to me. So I went out. The weather, we wound up going to that same place that I said I would never go to.
Was it less scary or?
It was a little bit less scary when you have some friends around.
Right.
And we went through the course. I never did a tandem. I learned static line, so very similar to the way that they do it with military. So you go through the course, you learn the basics, and we call it dope on a rope. They attach you with a 10-foot line to the airplane, and when you jump out, the parachute automatically opens.
Gotcha.
Then you navigate yourself down to the ground, and then as you get more experience, you go from just having a parachute opening out of the airplane to where you start with small free fall. So you jump out, you fall for a couple of seconds, you deploy your own parachute. Then you go up and you start learning maneuvers, and you slowly, and as each jump goes, you go higher and higher and higher until you're getting to full altitude that you see people jumping here in Dubai. went through.
What
We had
age were
horrible
you?
weather.
Like in your early
I was
20s?
20.
20. Okay.
I was 20 years old, or 19, just 19 or 20. I was just right in that.
When you were practicing your skydive.
When I first started.
When
So
you first started.
we got weathered out. I couldn't jump the first day. And I told my dad what I had done. He's like, "Oh, you're not doing this without me." So as a birthday present for him, I bought him the first jump.
Okay.
So the first time that we were jumping, we were actually jumping together. So we did
That's a
all of our
beautiful
jumps
Right.
kind of together. So I remember my 50th jump was with him. My 100th jump was with him. We did a 200th jump somewhere at a convention, and we were jumping together. So our first bit of skydiving was all done together, and it was kind of like some fathers and sons go fishing,
or play catch.
or they play catch in the yard. Yeah, we jumped out of airplanes.
Casual. Just what are you doing today? Just jumping off a plane. Oh, okay, let's go.
So
That's
that was
amazing.
that was the start into it.
So you were in university when you had your skydive.
So I was going to school full time, I was working full time, and I was skydiving whenever I had free time.
You got lucky because your passion matched your luck, as in your upbringing, your surroundings, your environment, your family.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was lucky to because I didn't have a choice what family I was born into. I definitely think that I was lucky to have the parents that I had growing up. I think Nicole was lucky to have the family that she had growing up, and to be completely surrounded by three generations.
Yeah.
3 generations before her, all in the same area. That there's a bit of luck in there, but I've also seen close friends of mine that were brought up in different situations that have worked their tails off to get the talent and to get to the achievements that they've been able to eclipse.
Yeah.
What they've been able to do.
So 2007, when she was assigned, I would assume it worked like here, assigned to you as a client.
Yep.
To have the first tandem for her, and then beyond.
Yeah. So her, like she said before, it was her and her late husband that came out. He bought her a jump. When you work in the industry, there's certain people that will stick out to you. There are certain people that you'll remember. They'll look familiar to you. When you're doing, let's say, 1,000 skydives a year with paying customers, you don't remember everybody. I wish I could say that I remembered every single person that I've taken on a jump. It would be amazing to have that ability, but honestly, I don't. I think as you were recovering, we wound up running into each other in Florida at an event. A friend of mine had passed away, and we were doing an ash dive for him with his mom and his dad. I was actually taking his mom and his dad on the jumps, and they had a little bag. Each one had half of his ashes in it, and they were doing an ash jump. So I happened to see her down there. It was a little Thai place, and I remember we were talking, and I'm like, "No, you're sitting with us," or whatever. And she sat down, and we all had. Yeah, I was there with my girlfriend at the time, so it wasn't anything. I mean, I've always thought that she was beautiful from the beginning, but it had nothing to do with that. It's just one of those moments that will always stick out in my mind. I remember seeing you. I remember being happy that she was okay. I remember sitting down and having dinner. I remember I happen to remember what she got just because she forced me to try some. She's like, "Oh, you got to try this. It's so good."
And you didn't like it?
And then no, it was good. It was good, but at that point, I wasn't really a huge fan of spicy. That's kind of developed over the years. So we say our goodbyes. We give each other a hug. I don't see her again for the rest of the event. Go back up to Georgia. I think I saw you just before I left for Dubai because you were doing tandems at that point.
Yeah.
I saw you come. I was over at the same Earth Skydiving Center, and she had come in and she had a tandem canopy, so she had gotten her tandem instructor rating. That was the last time I saw you though, because I was already in Dubai and I'd come home to visit, and I saw her at the drop zone. I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, what's that thing on your back? Like, haven't you learned better? Like, I thought I taught you better than that, just joking around, right? Like, why would you want to do tandems? Because it's as much fun as we have doing tandems. It can be hard work.
It's hard work.
And especially when you're built like this one over here, it's much more difficult for women to do. No. Just when you're built like Nikole is.
Oh, yeah.
Small
I bet.
frames.
Yeah.
She's small frame, but she's strong and she can make it work. But the smaller framed you are, the more
Effort.
work it is, and
Yeah.
the more you have to
I bet, yeah.
to condition. I remember you talking about conditioning
Push-ups.
push-ups, right?
Correct,
it's the
correct.
It's the same thing when it comes to flying the parachute and flaring the parachute. To get the power out of it, it takes time.
What question would you want him? Would you want him to answer?
What is your greatest skydiving achievement?
I know it's so many, but you have to pick one.
There's a few. I can't pick just one.
Oh my gosh.
I wish I could.
Is it political?
No.
Okay.
It's just I've got.
I mean, you don't want to upset someone, or is it?
No, I mean I have. If you ask me what my greatest skydive was of all times,
Yeah.
I would. There's two that ring out in my mind immediately. The first one was when I got to take my mom on a skydive, and my dad was able to jump out of the airplane, and he came over and took a dock on my mom's arm, so it was a family photo. It was the three of us jumping together. So I took my mom on a jump, and he was there with us, and that was one of that was the same year that he passed away. So it even holds that much more of a special place in my heart. The second one would probably be, and they're parallel. They're both family oriented. One is with mom and dad, and the other one is me proposing to Nicole. I've been lucky, but the two skydives that always stick out in my mind is the one with my mom and dad, and the one where she reluctantly said yes to me.
Didn't reluctantly say yes.
She felt sorry.
I'm with her
for
on
me.
this one.
She
I've seen
felt,
it. I was like,
she felt sorry for me. She's like, oh man, he's asking me to marry him, and he's attached to me. He's got nowhere to go.
Yeah. Yes, it was a pity yes. It was a pity yes.
your story is honestly one of the most beautiful stories that I've ever heard.
Thank you.
I genuinely, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, wish you all the best and a lifetime of happiness and success. Junior, thank you very much for being on this show. I'm honored.
For having me.
I'm honored for you to accept. And Nicole, thank you for being here, for